Hi, this is Wahab, your one and only host from iGaming Accent, and today I have a wonderful guest and friend of mine, Tamar Badashvili. We have been working together, we have been partners as well. We've been on the both sides of the coin for a long time, and today I have a privilege to present her to you and have wonderful chat about the industry, about her background, and about her journey into our industry. Tamar, hello and welcome.
Hello. Thanks a lot. Thanks for inviting. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
But let's start with the obvious thing. We had we should be honest with our listeners. So we've been back and forth with the organizing of this podcast, and I think the main thing that people talk about within the industry is that a fatigue of the events that is happening during the year. And as far as me and you are always meeting on different countries and different mediums, what's your thoughts? So are there too many events happening in the industry? Should industry be less events, or what's your approach on that?
Not really. I don't think that it's too overwhelming in terms of traveling. Of course, it's overwhelming, but when you're meeting with the people, with the partners, with the potential partners, the new ones, then it's totally worth it. I believe that's in the future, the biggest events that are right now, like Sigma, SBC, etc., that is going to be expanding more, maybe in some other countries. But actually, what I think is additionally, there will be some specific events dedicated to specific directions, like let's say for the payments, for the affiliates, etc. There are lots of small events, and I think that this is going to be expanding maybe by the same big companies, the event organizers that are available right now. While working in the B2C, on the B2C side, the events were not that popular for me personally. I was not traveling that much. Only after I joined the team where we were working for the Curacao brand, it became more relevant because of the affiliates. But right now, since I'm also involved in the B2B business for the B2B, I think it's crucial. You have to meet everyone. You have to see them face to face. You have to negotiate with them. And afterwards, the partnership becomes more effective.
I think that we as a company have closed more deals in that moment, like when we are meeting with them face to face, sitting down
Yeah.
or at the dinner, other than all the marketing and all the sales effort before that. So I think that too.
Totally
So I
agree on
agree
that.
with. I think that there is something magical happening when the hand is shaked in the real life, and that is for both parties, it becomes like a real thing. Until then, everything is just back and forth, exchanging ideas and.
Yeah, sure. Whenever they see how excited you are with your product, then they also become somehow excited because of these vibes and exchanging all the emotions.
I think that instead of me introducing you how many of the sides of the coins you have been in, let's start with what was the first introduction of you into iGaming industry, and what have you did afterwards, like a short story about how do you become
Yeah.
what you are today and where you are today. I know that story from my side, so I won't be spoiling anything and give you
Yeah.
full freedom here.
Look, everything started when I was working for finance in a microfinance organization, and that was quite big and quite popular company actually, not only in Georgia but also across many regions. And that was the first time when I first touched the performance marketing, and it was quite exciting for me because from the beginning, from my childhood, I was more inclined to be friendly with the numbers, and that's how I became more interested into the digital because it was more relevant for me for my previous education, etc. And it started from the microfinance organization. Afterwards, when we had the regulations, strict regulations in terms of advertising and also in terms of financial part, then it became quite tough to be in the business in microfinance organization. And afterwards, the interesting thing is actually that even in microfinance organization, before I was working in an insurance company, the only thing that I was thinking about is it could be so cool to work in for finance. And it was I was not even applying for the jobs. I was just thinking about it. And suddenly some HR reached out to me and told me look, you have this like potential. There is this opportunity, and maybe you can just come here and have an interview with us. And I went there, I got this job, I was so excited. And afterwards, after the microfinance organization stopped with the regulation, the only thing that I was thinking about is like how cool it could be to work in iGaming industry. And I really like, I swear, it was like somehow, I don't know, the magic happened. And then suddenly it was my friend actually who told me that there is the like opening. I have a friend HR who is like looking for the digital marketing lead, and maybe you will be interested, and maybe you can join. And I went there in like in a company where like I was dreaming to be the part of. And then I had a conversation. It went well. I had several conversations actually with several people, as it usually happens. And suddenly I ended up being there with the amazing team. And that was actually the first step. And I was thinking like I'm very lucky because I joined previously the microfinance, and I'm joining now very, very interesting industries, iGaming industry. Or Jarbet, I think that like everybody who will be watching this podcast, everybody knows Jarbet, and especially right now when it's the part of the Flutter Entertainment. And the experience that I received there with the team in the industry, like because of my curiosity as well, it was like the ideal place to start being the part of the iGaming industry. And afterwards, like there was I was working there for like 3 or 3 years and a half. I don't remember exactly. And afterwards, like after COVID started, I had a negotiation with Party Match. Took around a year actually because like I was rejecting their offer, and suddenly I decided maybe it's a good idea just to move to the other country and relocate, because like it's a good idea in terms of like expanding my knowledge as well. And I joined Farima's team in Ukraine, and there was also quite a big level up, like not big actually, it was a quite huge level up for me because of like different experience, especially in the other country. Like relocation also matters because you are meeting the other people, like other culture, you have to adapt. And also like the market is quite different. For example, in terms of marketing, since I was the CMO, in terms of marketing, there were quite huge differences because like in Georgia, we're more concentrated on the brand side of the communication. We're more concentrated on the casino products. And Ukraine, it was quite different because we had the affiliate, we had performance marketing, much more numbers, and it was also exciting for me. The brand was developing in a different way because the product and the country actually was quite big, huge, and you had to concentrate not only on the capital but also lots of different other countries, like different regions, etc. So it was an amazing journey actually. And afterwards, actually, there was the time when Standard Sports reached out to me, and I thought, like, I was not even thinking about it, like, in a very serious way, I would say. But suddenly I realized that, like, at night when I was like going to bed, I was thinking about Standard Sports, how I would develop the company, like different countries, etc. It was always in my mind, even when I was working very much. And then I decided, like, okay, so now I have to switch to Standard Sports because my mind is totally there. I have to like concentrate on there. So again, I went back to Georgia and I joined this team who was like developing the product, very challenging product actually for that time it was different countries, and like we started developing, and it was quite tough actually because like compared to the iGaming industry, media business is quite different, quite challenging. But the most interesting thing was that I was also like in a very close touch to the iGaming industry as well, and we can even talk about it later maybe regarding these connections, etc.
That was like my next, let's say, interruption of you, where I
Yeah.
wanted to step in. So first of all, like I love when I have guests that have been like moving around the world, so traveling around and also relocating and adapting to new cultures. So my first question, and like before we go to your
Yeah.
current job and also like finish up your journey, my first thing was I have to say that first and foremost, I learned a lot from you coming from data. I'm not too much data guy. I'm more like on a emotion side rather than the data side, even though like finance and banking is within my, I don't know, DNA and it's somewhere there. And the part that I learned a lot from what data means and how cool it is to, beside the emotional part of the marketing have the data to like make your statement much more clear to everybody, every stakeholder and everybody involved, that most of the time doesn't trust marketing because not everybody, but most of the teams that don't understand what is under the hood of the marketing think that marketing is all fun and games, like all the designs, all the fun stuff, all the marketing guys and girls have like a best time in the company. But like one of the biggest misunderstanding about like my previous profession. So first, let's go back to the thing. So relocation and going into the Ukraine and adapting to the new team and to new culture. So what was the biggest challenge there, I would ask, and how did you overcome? And also it was a real big step up, right? You were managing a team, you had a big team here in Azerbaijan as well, but from digital marketing head to CMO, it's a big leap. So not that much big leap, like let's say next right step, to be honest, but still it's like stepping into a new shoe. So I would like to ask, what was the biggest challenge and what was your hardest thing to adapt to?
So regarding the challenges, I have never even thought about it actually, but I'll just try to be as honest as possible. So for the first time when I joined the team, the biggest challenge was like the simplest one. It was the language challenge because like first I imagined that everything will be in English and I would communicate with the team in English, but suddenly I realized that like English is not the language that is like working language for the team. So I have to adapt. And first I started like writing even in the chats in Latin letters, but in Russian. So it was quite challenging. I realized that some of the guys were making fun of me and I was like so stressed because of that. And I started like typing like, letter by letter in Russian. Suddenly I realized that I can do that. And then I just started and it went well after around like 1.5 months. So the next like serious challenge actually that I had is that in Georgian markets, like we were not that much concentrate actually on data. We're of course like evaluating the effectiveness of the campaigns, etc. But as I mentioned, we were more concentrated on the product, on the promos, and on the brand rather than having the perfect and ideal way of somehow like understanding the numbers behind all of the placements that we had. And that was actually like quite right strategy for the Georgian market because there are not so many licensed companies in Georgia. The gray market is not that big, and that's why you have to like manipulate within the market from the brand and reputation perspective. But in Ukrainian market, it was totally different. Even if like there was the similarity in terms of like the Ajarabet was the biggest one, very much was also the biggest one in Ukrainian market. And that was quite somehow first sight quite easy to manage the brand itself. But from on the other side, there were lots of numbers, there were lots of different directions of the teams, and actually even the teams was quite different because like in Georgia we're like used to having the team that is more friendly, I would say, with each other because this is a smaller country and everybody knows everyone, we can say. So it was different in Ukrainian case because like there were the teams who were not that closely communicating with each other. And it's quite a challenge for the manager actually, because when you see that they are not actively communicating with each other and they are doing their jobs perfectly, but still they are doing it separately, you have to somehow collaborate them because this is the way it works better and it works the best way. It was like the case of Ajarbet as well. We were working together even during the night. You remember we were sitting there, we were enjoying every like person coming to our projects and every lead that we were having. So I was like trying from the first day to like collaborate the team. Which was the right move, I think. Also, the next thing is that, like from the organizational side, just to organize the team and just to organize their working behavior. Like there are lots of different like sources where they were communicating, where they were like creating the tasks, etc. So I just try to like unify everything in just one single tool or like a couple of tools so that they can easily communicate there. And like step by step, I realized that they became more friendly with each other, as well as the collaboration became more effective. From the other challenges, I wouldn't say that it was like very, very challenging because like personally me, I'm a very curious person. I have a quite strong FOMO, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, and I don't want to miss anything. That's why even today I'm like joining all the groups in Telegram, like following everything, and I'm usually very distracted because of that. But this is the industry, this is how it works, and it's very, very dynamic. Compared to the other industries, I would say it's like total different story and total different environment.
I can agree on the part of FOMO. So I think that when people have a FOMO, and
I know your
I
FOMO
know,
also.
yeah, and there are like I know few people that have that FOMO, and that can be also a good thing in used properly. So you are never missing anything, but at the same
Yeah,
time, you should remember that what you have to focus and not to miss out like important stuff
of course,
that
of
is on
course.
daily and weekly one. But we learned, we evolved, and we are now here. So it was time that this was affecting my personal like workload, but that's now in the past. So I allow that from operation side, we covered like everything. Now let's transfer into the sports medium. And as you said, the sports medium, I think is one of the most, I don't know, exciting parts of our, like not exactly our industry, but part of our industry, let's say like sister industry or brother industry or something like
Rather,
very, very close, rather. Yeah. And I know just from the stories, just from the friends that are working
yeah.
there, from you as well, how different it is, and how it is important that you are having a broadcasting part, you have like, digital assets, you have like based. By the way, I haven't like I always knew Setanta value is a not too diehard fan of the sport, but when I was
Mhm.
traveling and living abroad, I found out how much valuable this service was because, like, if you wanted to have something, like for example, when I was in USA, if you wanted to watch something, you needed like for every different league, every different subscription, and it piled up so much. And then I realized what Setanta was doing on such a high level and such a good, let's say, such a good manner that it brought, first of all, like Port covered all of it, like top leagues from the top, I don't know, countries, everything there. And on the other side, it also brought one of the key and next steps of the broadcasting. So, first of all, I don't want to tell it from my side as an user and as a how bad my experience was living in other countries and trying to access to watch some, I don't know, Georgian match or like international final or Champions League final, and how challenging it was to just watch it. And when you want to even buy, but you are always like, sorry about that. My cat is doing some mischievous things there. So tell me from your side, like stepping into the sports media, what was the biggest difference and how the experience from the iGaming side helped you to do that?
Well, I'll start from the beginning. I really like the sports media business and how it is different from the betting industry. I wouldn't say that it's like different or it's like the same. Actually, these are two different businesses that are helping each other, uh, especially in case if you have not only online casino but also the sports book. It's very relevant. And the biggest plus of me working here is my resource and is my experience is that like I'm looking at the industry like media industry from the perspective of iGaming industry because like previously when I was working even in a jar bed as well as in Party Match we were both like the partners of Setanta Sports, and I did understand like did know how to make it very like productive, very effective from the iGaming industry perspective, from the company's perspective, because I did understand, like I saw the numbers and I saw that the conversion is like, let's say on average, and I wanted to make it even bigger. I was comparing the data, I was comparing the average bet, average deposit amount, etc., and the flow of the users. The biggest like understanding and biggest insight that I had is that I did realize, like of course previously I also understood that this is more for the brand, for the reputation, because Sedanta is a quite big brand by itself. So when you are partner of this kind of brand, quite big brand with a good reputation, of course, it also matters for your brand as well, because you are associated with this brand with the good reputation, etc. But from the other side, actually, you have to also evaluate in numbers how it does it somehow impact the brand. And the thing is that, like, from both sides, from the brand perspective and from the performance perspective, I was like evaluating all of the things, and I was the one who was like asking Standard Sports just to add some functionalities. We were working closely together to make it like more effective as possible. And then when I stepped into this role in Standard Sports, I realized that every time that I was like working with the iGaming, or every time actually when I was like making an offer to the iGaming company in order to become our sponsor, I was like considering all of these things, and
Yeah.
I knew in advance. I exactly knew in advance what their team was thinking about, and I was like delivering the thing prior to their questions. So that's like I was giving the numbers, and look, guys, this is the company. We have this awareness. This awareness can impact also your brand. This is our reputation in terms of the researches and all of the numbers, etc. And then I was providing, let's say, like you have the odds overlay, which is quite important for you because you have the sports book, and the users who will be watching the top leagues, they will be also seeing the odds, live odds, which is also quite important because the association between the sportsbook and streams will be quite close to each other. Also, the company like iGaming industry and iGaming company definitely knows how expensive it is to have the partnership directly with the leagues and also with the clubs, and we're offering some alternative that look like everybody who is watching sports, they are watching it not on the stadium. Most of them, like biggest part of them, they are watching on TV. And when the user is watching on TV, like on the screen, they also see your advertising, and this is the like best time to have the placement. And the biggest difference actually between the sports media and also like news channels is that
By the
between
way,
the
say hi
sports
to
media and news
our
channels,
podcast.
iGaming cat.
iGaming cat,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Ah,
biggest
sorry about that.
the like the difference actually is that there is like the effectiveness on one side, but on the other hand, you also understand that like association with the leagues, brands, with the clubs, the brands is a quite huge plus. So it was actually quite effective, I would say. Like me joining the team, as well as like the team who was helping me to understand the leagues, etc. Because like previously, I'll be honest, I was not that keen actually into like sports leagues, especially like the specific players, etc. But here, like when you see the environment in the company, like whenever you enter the office, you see the guys who are like lightened up with these ideas of having the different kinds of campaigns. Like they're putting too much attention on the posters, the content, copywriting, etc. They are excited with this one. I think this is the like biggest plus, and this is the biggest point of success in our case. So like both industries actually like help each other, and this is as simple as that.
I've been to second office too many times, and like I will tell a story from my side. So when you enter, you can see it by, let's say, when you are entering the market, like it's a different parts of the market, so different goods are sold in different sections, right? And like when I
Yeah.
enter the second, I always imagine that this part is, for example, tennis, and all the tennis diehard fans and diehard people are here. Then it comes like fighting, MMA, UFC, all the diehards are here. Then it comes like football, and all the diehard parts are here. So as soon as you enter in the office, you can see the aura changing, is changed already. Like you can feel that different, I don't know, different magic happening there, because like everybody there is so keen and so into the everything. And I think that they are like walking Wikipedias of the sports itself, because you can ask
Exactly.
random question, and like worst thing you can do if you don't have time, ask the question that starts a debate, because you are then dead, because like there will be more and more people joining this debate, and at some point it will be like a big fight, who is better or what is better or which sport is better, and like you should keep yourself little bit
Exactly.
behind. But I love the part that your experience as a CMO and as a part of, let's say, casino operation helped really good with the relationship building with the potential partnerships of the Setanta with iGaming, and like you already knew all the challenges, all the ideas, all the questions, all the let's say what operators were thinking about. So you were like most equipped and most prepared woman in that conversation, and that is really, really cool. As part of this discussion, I think that we also have to look into the part that has been sometimes a topic, and I know how important it is that this part is changing a lot in these later days. From your side, if you also see this change, is it our industry still dominated by male, or is it a myth? And how different it is in media as well, because you've been part of the both worlds.
Interesting question. So if we take specifically sports media and not just the media in overall, I think in sports media it's still much more male dominated, and there, like I would say, in the leadership, few female who are like leading the sports media businesses. This is the way I see right now because I have communication with lots of other medias like sports media providers. But if we take the iGaming industry, I think that there are more women right now than it was previously, but not more than male at the moment. I think like 25% maybe they're females and the rest is still males, and the industry is still male dominated. But I see that it's changing. I see that developed countries, especially, they do not care about the gender. This is maybe mostly in the countries they're not that much developed, and like they are now like third countries which are still like trying to somehow, like they still struggle to understand that there is no big difference actually between the male and female. I wouldn't say that I have a problem with that, because like sometimes I feel that there is kind of problem, and in these cases what I'm usually doing is that, especially in the negotiations, if I see that the person is inclined to be somehow like to be more like, I don't know, serious with the male, then I'm bringing my colleagues and they are sitting there, they're talking about it, and I'm just there just listening, adding something if it's necessary, and that's it. I'm just manipulating with the situation as much as possible because I have to do my job. This is the only way I can say to them that you are doing it wrong or something, because this is their culture and I can change this culture.
Yeah. So yeah, good trend is that it is growing, and I think that at some point in future, it will be balanced, and that will be like really, really good. And
Yeah,
but
you can
still,
take
we
an
are not there.
example actually from the SBC, even from the SBC, like you see that actually there are more and more women participating. This is my data.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't have too much data, but this is my data from the conferences.
Yeah, that's good. I always take the data, like we are not counting, but I think that we can ask SBC to count that part. I think they will know, they have the hard data there. But from what I see from the panels, from the participants, from the attendees, I already see that the majority is not male driven. So it's already like somewhere in balance. And for example, on my panel, like I had a balance there as well. Like we were like 4 people, and 2 were women, 2 were male. So I had my own equal balance somewhere there hidden. Okay, so let's jump back to the industry insights. So first of all, like we have not yet arrived at your current place. So I will be still in sports media right now. So you are quite close to that industry as well. So how it's evolving, and like, can you tell me a little bit about the future of iGaming and sports media, and how it will be getting closer? Because I've seen few big moves from the brands, like sport media brands entering the iGaming business, and also vice versa, iGaming business entering the sports media. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. By the way, in USA, I've seen only bad examples what ESPN and has done. And I really want your insight into it, how it will be in future.
Yeah. It's like the sports media business is also changing, like growing, and there are lots of things that are happening around, especially in terms of streaming. Because for now, for example, a couple of weeks ago, I saw an example how the streaming has changed in tennis. And they're like if we see, for example, right now, whatever the cameraman is deciding to see, or whatever the producer is deciding to display on the screen for you, and there is the commentator who is in live commenting in specific language. What now we're doing, for example, we have dubbing in the commenting in 5 different languages. So the thing that now has changed is that, first of all, in terms of commentating, the thing is that there is AI, which is already like in the testing phase, and I've seen the company who was telling that they are already doing it in live, and the customers have an opportunity to like switch to any of the languages, like lots of
Wow.
languages, and there is no need to have the commentator who will be commenting like from the different commentators booths in different languages, but rather you can have like, for example, 2 different languages, and then you can just pick which language would you like to have the dubbing, and it has like very, very small delay in terms of streaming, but still like you have the commentating in your local language, which is like more convenient for you. And the other thing is that regarding the cameraman, regarding the producer, is that there are lots of different cameras, and you can see the stream from different angles, and you are choosing from which angle would you like to choose, and like you are like moving around the stadium from like 360 perspective, and like you see like from different angles the same match actually, and you are the one who is deciding either you have to
Wow.
watch to, let's say, I don't know, Yannick Sinner or Alcaraz with a close up. Like it's a totally new story, and I think that will be like evolving even more in the upcoming future. But actually, as I mentioned in China, it has already started, and they are already testing, and we see the examples already in place. So in terms of the betting industry and like the mix of betting and media business, the interesting thing and what we are doing right now is actually that, sure, what we are doing right now is that we're building the ecosystem. So which means that like we can take the examples of, let's say, Sky Sports and Sky Bet. We can take an example of the Zone Sports and the Zone Bet, and we're doing the same thing. So we have started with the media business, and now we have entered the iGaming industry, and we're starting now from the Georgian market, who got the license in the Georgian market. So it means that we will be entering the market with the Standard Bet brand. And this is the ecosystem that we're building, because we do understand that whenever there is the company, the betting company, who is like adding additional sports media business, like smaller, but still sports media business, the biggest difference is that you have the, let's say, not the bad reputation, but still when there is the iGaming, there is no like perfect reputation, right? So you are entering from this market to the media business, and this is not very effective, as we can see even from the Georgian market perspective. But when you are the media business, especially Stanta Sports, which has a very, very good reputation, because we are spending a lot and investing a lot in the content, in the like social media channels, just to build the reputation. And then when you are entering the iGaming industry, then this good reputation of course reflects on the betting industry as well. And for the media business, when you have this big popularity in each market where we operate, and especially in like several, like five big markets that we're operating, where we have high brand awareness, of course, entering with the iGaming product with Standard Bet is a quite big move. So we're building this ecosystem from one side. We're giving the sports fan the experience of like streaming, and also adding the different travel packages, so that you can also go and visit like Camp Nou Stadium, etc., with quite influential people together with you on a tour, as well as like having the streaming experience of different top leagues. And as you mentioned, like in other countries, the price of this kind of content is very, very
It's too
big.
expensive. Really
Yeah, in our
expensive.
case, it's like very low. Like you can buy a monthly subscription for the same price as, let's say, one cup of
Cup of
coffee.
coffee. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, from the morning perspective, cup of coffee is quite relevant example. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the main idea. So ecosystems will work in the future, and I think that like most of the media companies or sports media companies will come up to this idea of having the betting as well.
Yeah, and like we already saw few good examples and great examples as well, like the vehicles as well. But I love how close even like a big, let's say, conglomerate brands. Like my favorite thing, like last I saw, is that as far as I'm Amazon Prime user, whenever there is an NFL match, FanDuel, Amazon streaming, Amazon itself, like those two big brands are coming together on such a big scale. And like, when you start like going into the rabbit hole and like reading more and more into it, like I saw how integrated they are with TV as well, and how betting
Yeah,
and streaming are like almost one in one, and like how there is no bridge like between that, and that is really really cool as well, because in some markets like live betting and like player props is too much popular, and like everybody is trying to get into that train, and bridging that gap is quite done well sometimes. But also I've seen like a worst case scenarios that is happening, like when somebody just decided, okay, let's do it, and it affected both ways, because as you mentioned, like when you are entering as a sport media brand into iGaming has its downsides, but a good part of a media can be consumed by it as well, and like it can
of
affect
course.
both ways. And the like biggest mistake when people are doing that is that they are affecting their good brand in a bad way. And when you want to balance it out, you should have an approach that does not affect your sports media brand in any like bad manner. So that is like most important part that has to be there, and also let's say smooth
Exactly.
integration between these two. It should not be pushed upon. Like it should not be like, hey guys, every day we are only doing this now, and sports media is becoming the secondary business for us because we are making much more money in the iGaming business. So that is the perfect balance when it should be balanced out and approached in a very careful way. Okay,
Exactly.
we discussed the sports media, so now I want to switch back to our industry and your current challenges and your future goals. And honest look at what keeps you up at night these days. I know what you kept up at night, like in older days, but what is like your, let's say, current challenges, goals? Like, can you little bit dive into what's happening around Aviator Studio and what are you pursuing on global scale?
Okay, so I will start again with the Setanta batch, and then we'll continue with the
Yeah.
Aviator Studio, because these are both like very interesting businesses that I'm now involved. So for Setanta bat, like just like well, it's not been a long time since I like got involved into this Setanta bat business, because like previously it has started like developing the product itself, developing the in-house platform, and then I stepped into the role of the CEO of Setanta Bet. And then I was like fully involved, because like previously, if I was dedicating like 90% at least of my time to Aviator Studio, now it's became like 50-50. 50% of my time is still dedicated to product development. And this is currently the biggest challenge, because as you have mentioned even previously, like I have an experience from the different angles, like working in the B2C business with the on the operator side, then from the B2C, B2B side of Aviator Studio, providing the games, and also from the media industry. But this is actually the first time I have like this deep touch with the platform itself, because like starting the platform from scratch, it's a quite different story. Like it's very, very challenging, I would say, but it's also very exciting, because previously if I was using the platforms which were ready to use, which were like the white label solutions, let's say, it was much easier because you had all the tools and you never thought about like what was behind those tools. You just need to understand the logic. Now you have to think about those tools, about the dependencies, etc. You have to like manage also the team of quite talented developers, the testers team, the front end team, design team, etc., which is very exciting, but really very, very
Uh,
challenging.
I will jump here and I will ask you most brutal question I have ever asked. Have your brain changed in a way that when you want to do something and when you have an idea, with this idea, there is some second brain that is already telling you this idea will take this long because of the roadmap right now that I'm having. So when you want to be creative, something is there that is already holding
Yeah.
you back in the ways that Tamar, that this will take like additional 3 weeks of development, and is it really good, and so on and so on. Is it like
Yeah,
that?
I
I
see
think
that you
that
have the same case in
yeah,
Promfly,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Every time when we want, like, we have a big roadmap, like even though we are a startup, still trying to keep it as a startup. I am against like 3 months, 6 months, 1 year,
yeah,
like strategy roadmaps and stuff like that. I only do one a month. Like what we have is like next upcoming 4 weeks. But every time, like when we are gathered around or like doing something, we have a shelf of the ideas. And every time when we think about ideas, personally, it's my challenge, to be honest, like not a big team challenge. Every time when I think about ideas, I already think about the challenges, problems, like dependencies, how this might affect it, how like our integration roadmap
priorities.
priorities and so on. So this is also a downside of stepping into
Yeah,
the bigger, let's say, picture and having to manage like both sides of the creation slash execution as well. Because you remember in
yeah,
our old days, we just wanted the idea and we didn't care. We just wanted it today done because we knew that it would affect this part, and we didn't really take into account like what was happening on the other side of the business. But
exactly.
good. Yeah. Now, happy to have the same problem, and it's happy to have
Yeah, but
somebody
you
that,
know, the good thing is actually that you are understanding the business now, like fully, really
yeah,
fully,
yeah,
because you
of
had the
course.
product experience, had the marketing experience, CRM experience, like different angles, and now you are in different world. And you start understanding that whenever the developer is saying that he has no time, you do really understand that he has no time for that because he has totally different priorities. This is also quite a big plus. I would say there are like 90% of pluses and 10% of these
Yeah,
challenges
yeah,
that
of
you have to
course. Like,
somehow
this is
overcome in
first
your
world problem.
brain, I would say.
Yeah,
So
this is
yeah,
a first
like
world problem.
yes, exactly. So this is actually the first thing, like the first challenge that I'm having right now, but still like it's very exciting. And the second challenge is of course the aviator studio because it's quite a different business based on like my experience. I never had experience working with the studio. So the challenge is that like you have to always keep communication with the existing clients because there are like lots of clients who are also like interested in having the either good promotions or discounts or I don't know, like extension of the contract, etc. And you have to always keep in touch with them. There are the aggregators who are like trying to connect you with the operators because operators are trying to receive some benefits from your side as well. There are lots of features that you have to develop because you are always listening to the clients and afterwards based on the demand you are creating the additional features, etc. So it's also quite challenging, and the most challenging part is like having the never ending conferences, but still like this is B2B life, you know, you have to go there, you have to talk to the clients. Most of them are actually quite interesting because usually actually what has changed recently is that previously there were not so many people who were sharing the like updates or some changes in the market. But currently, when I was like even in Rome, when I was meeting with the partners or with the potential partners, they were telling some like their experiences and they were sharing their experiences like good ones, the bad ones as well, which was like quite interesting for me because when you are understanding the markets, the regulation changes, etc., still it matters because you can be more flexible and you can adapt as soon as possible to be ready to go to some market or make changes within the product. So these are actually like two main challenges that we're having right now together with the team and me as well.
Yeah. I think that biggest thing is that you are involved in two totally different businesses, but at the same time in
Mm,
the same, let's say, vertical, and balancing it out on
yeah.
daily basis and weekly basis is a quite challenging one. So, but I know you, so you will do like, I know that you will do your best. So, but still, like hard to feel issues on both sides. So
Yeah.
that's really really good. Okay, can you tell me a little bit right now where everything is heading? From like we have covered a lot of things, but still like industry insights from Bada, how what would you give our audience is where the iGaming world is headed? So what's next? What's next big thing? Is it like a fusion of entertainment with iGaming? Is it more like a social interaction? Is it more like a Gen Z adaptation of everything, or what's the next wave? AI is there, and like, by the way, I have got already quite a good insight what is happening with AI and sports broadcasting, and that was really cool, like auto translation of it in other languages. So,
Yeah.
just Tamar's insight into where the
Yeah.
iGaming world is headed.
I will not talk too much about the AI because it's obvious that AI is still in our lives and not still, but it's just started being in our lives. I'll just like share my insight that I had for myself. The thing is that like we're now, of course, like concentrated on the users who are either watching sports or they are now like gambling or they are just starting gambling. But still, like the thing that I realized for myself, which was quite obvious previously, but I never deeply thought about it, is that like we have to, in my understanding, the business has to like concentrate on the behavior of the people right now, because like the best example that TikTok did, for example, is that they have set totally new trend, and you can just take your phone and you can like constantly start scrolling, and it's never ending. Sometimes it might take even 1 hour and even like 2 hours or even more, just scrolling the phone while like I don't know, having lunch, etc. So this behavior is something that is very, very obvious. We have it on table. The user experience has changed a lot, and people are not consuming the content like for the same content for a long period. Even the TV streaming, like the sports streaming, it has changed because you have the browser, but you still have like small window where you're watching sports, but in parallel you're doing something different, right? So this is a quite big finding for me, for myself, because then I realized that if the person is like inclined to like having the scrolling or like switching from one content to another, maybe the iGaming industry should also adapt and not to have like big websites of like different games, etc. in one place, but just to concentrate having it like quickly changing slots, and you can just scroll it and you can make some kind of entertainment in that terms. If we go overall, like if we go more global in terms of looking at the industry, somehow, I don't know, I have this feeling that the industry is now moving into the more regulated market. So we previously, for example, entering the unregulated market in gray zone, it was like not very, very challenging, I would say, but you could just enter the market and create lots of different brands, and all of them, most of them would be successful, most probably. Now it's quite challenging because of the lots of restrictions, because of the countries that are now by using AI, they are starting controlling the websites. The ones that are like creating tons of mirror domains. They're not locally regulated, and they started blocking those domains. Also, in terms of changes in the Meta and in Google, when the advertising is much challenging, which means that the CPA per like cost per acquisition per user becoming much higher, and for the companies, maybe it's not totally worth it spending so much money per user because the lifetime value of the user is not that high, and this is also changing, and because of the regulations as well. So these restrictions does not give too much room for the gray areas, and now the business, I believe, more and more businesses will start entering the regulated markets and getting the local licenses. And on the other hand, the thing is that regulators will be also making the adaptations, and they will be more idealizing maybe their regulations in terms of the restrictions, not to make it too strict, because still then people will most probably start searching for
Searching for
some
the
gray
alternatives, yeah.
areas, searching for the alternatives, of course, but not to make them like to somehow, I don't know, to gamble too much. And the responsible gambling tools in this case, I believe, will be more and more popular, and they will also start making more profit on their side, but more like adapting to different markets. I believe this is something that is happening right now, which is like very, very obvious for the moment.
Yeah. And like it's funny thing that my previous guest, Quirino Mancini, was talking about it as far as like for lots of countries, there is no benchmark of responsible gaming yet, and like not even responsible gaming, but just licensing. Like there is no benchmark. Everybody has their own, so it's really hard for companies that are approaching the like white label legal market in a way that they want to license. It's not like one approach works for all European countries or one approach works for all USA states. So it differs based on the states, based on the areas. Even like Latam, when you approach, like Brazil is totally different from Argentina. Argentina is different from Paraguay, and so on and so on. So this is something that industry is moving forward, and let's see what happens there. And on this side, we have a tradition in our podcast, and the tradition is blind question from our previous guest. And the blind question left for you is, by the way, really good. I don't know, maybe he somehow knew who was our next guest, because I know that you had many cases of these discussions in your previous and your current world or corporate world. So the question is, if you were an international operator in many different highly regulated markets, by the way, on what we just talked about, which one would you happily exit out, and not based on financial KPIs, just like everything else, non-financial decision, just which market would you exit if you were the international operator? I know, I said, he knows that it was really not very geopolitically inconvenient question, but it is what it is. So
I see. I will
this is
not
your,
touch the politics either. Yeah, I will not
yeah.
consider the political stuff. Quite challenging because like if you have lots of different markets which are profitable, and let's say all of them are actually profitable, some of them are still less profitable. Let's say less profitable than the others. So I'll definitely pick the one, like drop the one that is taking the biggest part of the resources of the team. In terms of the like having the compliance, in terms of having lots of paperwork just to comply with the regulation, in terms of taking too much resources, because in the end, when most of the companies actually who are like international, spreading internationally, they have one single main team, like the biggest like part of the companies have one main team who is managing the big businesses across multiple countries. Of course, they are localizing, they have local resources, but still like they are the ones who are managing the team. So if some of the countries is taking too much time and this is not like very, very profitable and it's not totally worth it, then of course I'll choose those markets that are taking too much time and not that much profit as we would like to have.
So dependency on core team and which market takes lots of time and less, let's say, not that financially meaningful would be the one that you would exit. Okay, quite interesting thought. And on this note, I have to make you also leave a blind question for our next guest.
Yeah, I have prepared the question actually because I knew that there will be a secret question for the next speaker. So since we have talked about the regulation, I have emphasized that what I see is that most of the markets, most of the companies will be, in my understanding, moving to the regulated markets. Like the question is that if there was only regulated market and no gray zone, no dark zone, nothing at all, just the regulated market, how do you think how the iGaming industry will be changed and what will be changed? What would be different, something different that is like different from what we have right now when we have regulated and non-regulated companies?
So what would be different in a world where there is no gray market and only regulated market? What would be different? Somebody needs to think about
I would also
that.
hear it actually. I would also listen to the answer because it's interesting for me too.
I think the competition would be fierce. Like even I have to think about the question. I will think about question, and with the next guest, I will try to answer that. So yeah, thanks for the interesting question and final. Like you left the bomb, and let's see how our next guest will defuse it or like make it explode. So let's see. As far as we are at final of our podcast, I will just say a regular thing that our listeners should not forget to subscribe to us. This was iGaming Accent brought to you by SBC Raja, and you can subscribe to us on any of your favorite channels, starting from YouTube, ending with Spotify. So see you next week. And Bada, thanks for being here and thanks for sharing your insights with the audience.
It was my pleasure. Thanks a lot, Wacho. Thanks, SBC.